Hello, and thank you for joining me for this week's discussion on effective learning methods. Today we will be discussing the interleaving effect and why it can significantly improve students' exam marks and their cognitive function. I will be referencing a paper published by Doug Rohrer in the Educational Psychology Review Journal in 2012. The title of this paper is Interleaving Helps Students Distinguish Among Similar Concepts. In today's talk, I will briefly summarize Doug's article and explain how we can bring these concepts into our classrooms to optimize our students' academic performance. Finally, we take a quick look at my source. Does it pass the CRAP test? So first, a quick look at the main concepts of the article. What is interleaving anyway? We can best explain interleaving by first explaining blocking. Blocking refers to learning everything about one concept before moving on to the next concept. In this illustration, I've used the concepts of integration and differentiation, but you can also simply substitute those words for concept A and concept B. Traditional teaching is largely done through blocking. As you can see in the illustration beside it, interleaving has you working on concept A for 15 minutes, then switching to concept B for 15 minutes, and continuing to go back and forth until both problem sets are done. This introduces an extra level of difficulty, something that's actually desired despite what you think, because the challenge increases the retention of the concepts being taught. This is called the desirability difficulty effect. So how can we take advantage of this information to maximize retention of concepts? First, let's talk about the cold start effect. This refers to your ability to recall the appropriate problem-solving method when you encounter an exam question. If you study with the blocking method and you're completing all the questions on concept A in one study session, each question becomes easier because you are already warmed up. You already have the problem-solving method on deck, so to speak, and do not need to actively pull it up from memory. However, if you use the interleaving method to study and you switch back and forth between concepts, you are starting cold with each problem and getting in good practice on how to remember or recall the appropriate problem-solving method. Interleaving also forces you to practice recognition of question types. Each type of question requires a different problem-solving method, and being quick to recognize the type will put you at an advantage when answering an exam question. Lastly, interleaving can help avoid confusion between similar concepts. When you practice switching between problem-solving methods, you begin to easily identify the subtle differences in each method and are less likely to get confused come test time. So let's tie all that information together. How can I apply these theories to my sonography lecture today? First, let's take a look at lesson planning. In order to make use of the interleaving effect, I take two topics that are similar but not the same, such as scanning a liver to interrogate for hepatic cell carcinoma and evaluating the flow of portal venous blood to the liver. Then I introduce both topics, i.e. liver carcinoma and venous flow, on the same day. The following day, I would talk about liver cancer again, but this time delving deeper into the topic. So maybe now I am addressing the etiology and sonographic appearance of HCC, but switch topics back to venous blood supply and explain some of the related pathologies like portal venous hypertension. Now for homework, instead of assigning questions 1 through 10 on the chapter on liver cancer today and 1 to 10 on the chapter of portal venous blood flow tomorrow, I will choose instead to assign questions 1 through 5 from the liver chapter and 1 through 5 from the portal vein chapter. Then tomorrow, I will assign questions 6 through 10 from the liver chapter and 6 through 10 from the portal venous chapter. Now obviously I'm oversimplifying a little bit for the sake of clarity, but I think you get my meaning. The last point there that refers to using interleaving as a differentiation strategy also speaks to the desirable difficulty effect and interleaving being an advanced method of study. If you have a student who is struggling with the basics of a concept, do not force interleaving on them at this stage. Instead, allow them the time to learn the concept with blocked practice. These students should be assigned questions that deal with concept A first. Students who are more advanced and need more of a challenge should be assigned questions that flip back and forth between these two concepts. So now let's look at my sources. Is the article that I use credible? Let's answer that question with the CRAP method of evaluating a source. C stands for currency. While new learning concepts and theories are being developed every day, there are some that stand the test of time. My article was published in 2012, making it 11 years old. Why did I choose an article this old? Well, I actually started my research on the interleaving effect with an article published in 2015 and some web pages that were even more current. But I found that all of these sources cited this paper by Doug Roher, so I decided to get to the root of the topic. So while it is a little bit older, the concepts are still very applicable today. Next is R, reliability. This paper was published in a peer-reviewed journal and has been cited 257 times, according to Google. As for references, this is a screenshot I took of one of 3 pages of references that Doug used to write this paper. I think that's enough, don't you? A stands for authority. I did a quick Google search of Doug Roher and discovered that he is a professor in the Department of Psychology at the University of Florida. He has a bachelor's in mathematics and a PhD in psychology. And he has published over 45 peer-reviewed articles in his extensive career. Lastly, let's look at P for purpose. What is Doug's purpose in publishing this article? This information contained in the article is not a matter of opinion. He presents facts that are based on numerous scientific studies and extensive research. His conclusions rely on this research, and he allows that limited evidence is a problem with wholesale endorsement of interleaving. His words. But that current data clearly favors interleaving over blocking. He has nothing to sell. His purpose for this article is purely academic. Thank you so much for joining me today for this enlivening discussion on interleaving, and I hope you will apply these concepts in your classroom for a better tomorrow.